Dead trees loomed over the narrow pass, stretching endlessly into the night, the darkness so thick even the full, bright light of the moon did little to illuminate it. Step after step, hearing the eeriest of sounds creeping deep in the surrounding forest, and imagining the strange and inscrutable mysteries which might reside there, I proceeded with steady, wary footsteps along the long, forgotten road. There is an unsettling feeling which arises when the path ahead is hidden, where the shadows of the night, in their utter inaccessibility to the visual sense, provoke the mind to fill in terrors from the darkest depths of thought. And in this sensory deprivation imposed by the stifling darkness of twilight does even the slightest stir, the crackling of branches, the low but sharp whir of a sudden wind, invite chilling visions and utmost paranoia into the mind. I had left the nearest town mere hours ago, walking I know not where, treading with desperate patience until the next town rose over the tireless hills which rose and fell throughout the countryside. Feeling some relief at the sign I'd just seen, 5 miles to the next town, I calmed my nerves enough to lie down for a few moments and get some needed sleep. Always with ease did I drift away from the reality of weary travel, the soft narcotic of my feet off the ground and pressure spread evenly along my back, lulling me into a quick, euphoric fade away from the fatigue which did so characteristically oppress me along the vast stretch of my travels. As I lay dreaming, a slowly mounting moan stirred me from my sleep, and as my eyes fluttered open, the strange sound threading through both reality and dream, I realized the moan was not simply a specter of my imagination, but emanated from something near within the woods. Startled, but in the soft haze following interrupted sleep, I rose slowly to my feet, a creeping chill spreading through my veins as I imagined what it could be. And just as I snapped from my haze and set again upon my trail, a tall, stout, grizzled figure stepped out onto the road, confused as if he'd stumbled out by accident alone, and with a vacant but friendly smile, waved his hands and approached with the rash haste of a wild man. I took a few steps back, unsure how to proceed, wary of what might be the instinctive creature who, by all appearances, seemed to have inhabited these woods his entire life, with no contact with common folk. Not bothering to speak, assuming as I had that his mind and voice had not been trained in the complex of human language, I simply returned his gesture and began walking forward as I'd been. But as the space between us closed, he shifted sideways, obstructing my path and forcing me to sidestep and walk past him through the middle of the road. I heard the rush of frenzied footfall, and felt a grip upon my arm and turned suddenly, his acrid breath pushing soft against my face, and I noticed a desperation in his slackened gaze I had not seen before. He tugged my arm, gesturing frantically toward the woods, and feeling the urgency of his gesture and the glint within his eyes, I weakly assented and followed him deep into the trees. We approached a small clearing, and he ran toward a scarcely discernible figure lying slack against a tree, belly swollen and protruded, visibly starving and swarmed with flying bugs. The man pointed at her belly, looking up at me with frantic desperation, as if begging me to feed whom I was sure to be his wife. I'd stocked up well in the previous town, and pulled various provisions from my pack, offering them with hand outreached to his sick and pregnant wife. She didn't take them, and the man, the wild despair on his features fading suddenly into something more aware, narrowed down his eyes and smiled as 3 men with shotguns snuck quietly from behind the trees. A blast burst suddenly through the silence, a booming crack resounding through the woods, and my kneecap shattered as I collapsed groaning on the mud. Fading in and out of consciousness, I felt myself being dragged through the woods, at no point during having any idea where I was, thinking only of the sign I'd seen earlier, claiming exotic meat you wouldn't find in any other town, and began to take seriously the claim of that old local who'd told me not to walk down this way, that so many dismissive travelers such as I had disappeared.